We just think a smaller, more intimate wedding would be better, my mother said, not meeting my eyes. The invitation I designed for them fell from my hand. For 28 years, I'd been their golden child. In that single breathless moment, I realized it was all a performance, and my part was over. For my entire life, my identity was built on a single unwavering principle: make my parents proud. I was the human embodiment of their checklist. At 28, I had the right career, a senior analyst position I'd taken not for passion, but for the $110,000 salary they could boast about to their friends. I lived in the right apartment downtown, a place so expensive I had to skip lunches to afford the rent, but it was the address they'd chosen. I'd even dated the right man, a lawyer named Charles, for 3 years because his family name carried weight. The cost of this performance? My entire student loan repayment fund, $47,000, went into renovating their summer house. It's an investment in family, my father had said, and I believed him. The night after the intimate wedding conversation, I was numb. I mindlessly scrolled through Instagram, and then I saw it. A post from my cousin, a photo of my entire extended family laughing in my parents' garden. The garden my money had paid to landscape. The caption? So happy everyone could make it to the pre-wedding brunch for Sarah. Sarah, my younger sister, the one whose wedding I was now officially to attend. The screen blurred. The sound of my own heartbeat was deafening. They hadn't just excluded me, they had erased me. I didn't cry. I sat on my perfect, sterile sofa in my perfectly curated apartment, and I felt nothing. A complete system shutdown. Then the shaking started. It was a cold, cellular tremor. I looked at my hands, the hands that had signed away my future for their approval, and they were strangers' hands. The tears that finally came weren't tears of sadness. They were hot, sharp tears of pure, undiluted rage. I had built my life on a foundation of sand, and the tide had just come in. I opened my laptop, my fingers clumsy. I started a new spreadsheet. Column A, the sacrifice. Column B, the cost. The summer house, $47,000. The car I co-signed for my dad, $15,000. The loans for my sister's art school that were never repaid, $28,500. I tallied it all. The birthdays I worked, the vacations I skipped, and the promotions I didn't take because they were too ambitious. The final number blinked on the screen. $138,750. That was the price tag I had placed on my own worth. I thought that number was the most painful part. I thought the collapse was complete. But I was wrong, because 2 days later, my father called. And what he asked for next proved that the bottom was much, much lower than I had ever imagined. His voice was calm and businesslike. Your mother and I were thinking, since you won't have the wedding expenses, it's the perfect time for you to invest in the new family boat. We've put down a deposit, but we need another $20,000 by Friday. I held the phone, my knuckles white, and in that crystalline moment of clarity, I saw it. I wasn't a daughter, I was a line of credit. I wasn't a person, I was a function. And my function was to pay. The illusion shattered, not with a bang, but with a budget request. I took a deep breath, the first real breath I felt I'd taken in years. I need to think about it, Dad, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I hung up, and then I got to work. First, I called my bank and revoked all third-party access to my accounts. Second, I texted Charles and ended our our relationship. Third, I found a therapist specializing in family trauma and booked a session for the next day. I was no longer following their script. I was writing my own. When I told them no the next day, the explosion was nuclear. They called me selfish, ungrateful, and a disappointment. But what they didn't know was that for the first time, I was prepared. I had quietly been gathering every receipt, every transaction, and every text message for months. They were about to learn that the quietest one in the room is often the most dangerous. The final confrontation wasn't at a dramatic dinner. It was over a carefully scheduled Zoom call with a mediator. My father started with his usual guilt tripping. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? I took another deep breath, and I didn't fight back with anger. I responded with love. I love you too much to continue this dynamic. I love myself enough now to know I deserve to be loved for who I am, not for what I can provide. And that love, it's not for sale. The silence on their end was absolute. There was no dramatic reconciliation, not then. The real victory wasn't winning an argument. It was the quiet peace that followed. I moved to a smaller, sun-filled apartment I could actually afford. I left my finance job and started a small graphic design business. For the first time, my life was mine. The clutter of their expectations was gone, replaced by the simple, profound sound of my own happiness. I thought choosing love meant sacrificing myself for my family. The moral twist, the one that healed me, was this. The most profound act of love is sometimes a boundary, not a sacrifice. I didn't choose love over expectations. I chose a higher, truer love for myself, which made it impossible to meet their toxic ones. I had to lose the person they wanted me to be to find the person I always was. We just think a smaller, more intimate wedding would be better. That sentence didn't break me. It broke me open. And from the cracks, my true self finally emerged. True love cannot be bought or sold. If you have to pay for it, it was never real. If you've ever had to build a new family out of friends and found strength, share your story below. Your journey matters. Thank you for sharing this sacred space with me today. If my story of trading a role for real life resonated with you, please share your own moment of awakening in the comments. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is to finally choose ourselves.